A close voice suggested I was playing too safe with my future. I used that moment to upgrade my mindset, strengthen my discipline, and pursue bigger opportunities. Months later, my progress became a reference point in conversations that once questioned my direction. You're just too comfortable settling for average, and honestly, it's exhausting to watch. The words hit me like a punch I never saw coming. I looked up from my laptop, where I'd been reviewing project proposals for the regional manager position I'd been considering. My girlfriend of 3 years stood in the doorway of our apartment, arms crossed. That look on her face I'd started seeing more often lately. The look that said she'd been holding something back for weeks. Hey viewers, before we move on to the video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you want to see more stories like this. I'm 29, been working at the same marketing firm since college, and until that Tuesday evening, I thought everything in my life was perfectly on track. What are you talking about? I asked, closing my laptop slowly. She walked into the living room, her heels clicking against the hardwood floor she'd insisted we get installed last year. You've been at that company for 7 years, she said. 7 years, and you're still excited about a regional manager position that pays barely more than what you make now. It's a 40% raise, actually, which still puts you at what? 85,000, maybe 90. I didn't answer because she already knew the number. She'd asked me about it 3 times this month. My brother just made partner at his firm, she continued. He's 31, 2 years older than you, and he's already pulling in 250 base, not counting bonuses. Your brother works 90-hour weeks and hasn't taken a vacation in 3 years. He's building something. He's ambitious. He's not just coasting. That word hung in the air between us. Coasting. I'm not coasting, I said, hearing the defensiveness in my own voice. I'm being strategic. I'm building experience, waiting for the right opportunity. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. You've been saying that since we moved in together. Wait for the right opportunity. Be patient. Good things take time. Meanwhile, everyone around us is making moves, taking risks, actually growing. Not everyone has to hustle themselves into an early grave to prove they're successful. No, she said quietly. But everyone who wants to build a real future needs to show they're willing to do more than the bare minimum. The bare minimum. I stood up, feeling heat rise in my chest. I've been consistent. I've been reliable. I've never missed a rent payment, never asked you to cover my share, never. That's exactly the problem, she interrupted. You're so focused on being safe and reliable that you've forgotten how to dream bigger. When's the last time you took a real risk? When's the last time you went after something that scared you? I opened my mouth to respond, but nothing came out. Because I couldn't remember. My friend Danielle's boyfriend just launched his 3rd startup, she said. Failed twice, but he's trying again. He's learning, growing, pushing himself. That's attractive. That's exciting. So I'm not exciting anymore? She sighed, and for the first time, I saw something in her eyes that looked like pity. You're comfortable. You're safe. You're the kind of guy someone settles down with when they're ready to stop dreaming and start surviving. The room felt smaller suddenly. Is that what we're doing? I asked. Surviving. I don't know what we're doing anymore, she said. But I know I didn't sign up for mediocre. I didn't plan my life around someone who's content with being adequate. She grabbed her purse from the counter. I'm staying at my sister's tonight. I need to think about some things. The door closed behind her with a soft click that somehow sounded louder than if she'd slammed it. I stood there for 10 minutes, staring at nothing. Then I opened my laptop again and looked at the regional manager position description. 40% raise. Better title. Same company. Same city. Same comfortable trajectory I'd been following since graduation. Safe. Reliable. Adequate. I closed the laptop and picked up my phone. My best friend answered on the second ring. Hey man, what's up? Devin, I said. Remember that startup accelerator program you told me about? The one in Austin? The 12-week intensive? Yeah, why? Is the application still open? There was a pause on his end. Dude, that program is insane. 16-hour days, complete life overhaul. They basically own you for 3 months. Plus you'd have to quit your job and move temporarily. Is it still open? Yeah, applications close Friday. But seriously, this isn't like you. What happened? I looked at the empty doorway where she'd stood minutes ago. I'm tired of being predictable, I said. That night, I didn't sleep. I researched the accelerator program until 3 in the morning. It was designed for people who wanted to launch tech startups or dramatically upskill in high-demand fields. The schedule was brutal. Coding boot camp from 6 to noon, business development from 1 to 6, networking and pitch practice from 7 to 10. 6 days a week for 12 weeks. They only accepted 30 people per cohort, and the acceptance rate was under 8%. I had a degree in marketing and communications, not computer science. I'd never coded anything more complex than a basic HTML website in college. By every reasonable measure, I was exactly the wrong candidate. I started the application anyway. The first question stopped me cold. Describe a moment when you chose comfort over growth, and explain what you learned. I stared at the blinking cursor for 20 minutes. Then I started typing about every safe choice I'd made in the past 7 years. The job I took because it was secure, not because it excited me. The promotions I waited for instead of demanding. The side projects I never started because they might fail. The relationship I'd let drift into comfortable routine instead of fighting to keep it electric. By the time I finished the application, the sun was coming up. I hit submit before I could second-guess myself. She came home Thursday afternoon. I was at the kitchen table with 3 programming books and my laptop covered in sticky notes. "You're still here," she said, sounding surprised. "Where else would I be?" She set her bag down and leaned against the counter, studying me. "What's all this?" "Learning Python. I applied to a startup accelerator program in Austin." Her expression shifted through several emotions I couldn't quite read. "You did what?" "I applied to an intensive program. 12 weeks. If I get in, I'd have to quit my job and temporarily relocate." "That's insane. You have a stable position, benefits, a clear path to promotion." "A path to adequate," I said, using her word back at her. "You were right. I've been playing it safe. I've been coasting." She pulled out a chair and sat down across from me. "I didn't mean you should throw away your entire career. You said I needed to take real risks. To go after things that scare me. This scares the hell out of me. This is too much. This is reckless." I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw the truth written across her face. She didn't want me to change. She wanted to be right about me being inadequate. "I need to try," I said quietly. She stood up, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. "If you do this, if you actually quit your job and run off to Texas for some fantasy camp, don't expect me to be here when you get back." "Noted. I'm serious. I'm not going to wait around while you have some quarter-life crisis and tank your career." "I understand." She stared at me like I was a stranger. "You're actually going to do this?" "If they accept me, yes." She grabbed her bag again. "Then I guess we're done." "I guess we are." She left again, and this time, I knew she wasn't coming back. I felt surprisingly calm about it. The acceptance email came Tuesday morning. I was one of 30 people selected from over 400 applicants. The program started in 3 weeks. I had to confirm my acceptance within 48 hours. I walked into my boss's office at noon. "I need to give my notice," I said. He looked up from his computer, confused. "The regional manager position? Did you get a better offer?" "I'm going to Austin for a startup accelerator program. I'm learning to code and pivoting into tech." He blinked at me slowly. "You're joking. I'm giving you 3 weeks. I'll train my replacement and wrap up all my projects cleanly. You're walking away from a 40% raise to go to coding school." "Yes." He leaned back in his chair, studying me. "I've known you for 7 years. This isn't like you." "I know," I said. "That's the point." The next 3 weeks were chaos. I gave away half my furniture, put the other half in storage, and sublet the apartment. My parents thought I was having a breakdown. My mom called every day, trying to talk sense into me. "You have a good job," she kept saying. "You're throwing away security for a gamble." "I'm 29, Mom. If I'm ever going to gamble, now's the time." "What about your girlfriend?" "What about?" "We broke up." Silence on the other end. "She broke up with you because you're taking a risk?" "She broke up with me because I wasn't taking enough risks. Then I started taking them, and she broke up with me because I was taking too many." "That doesn't make sense." "I know, Mom. I know. Devin helped me pack my car the night before I left." "You're really doing this," he said, taping up the last box. "You sound like everyone else." "No, man. I mean it in a good way. I've known you since college, and this is the first time I've seen you do something unpredictable. Is that good or bad?" He grinned. "Ask me in 12 weeks." Austin was hotter than I expected and louder than I remembered from the one time I'd visited during spring break in college. The accelerator program was housed in a converted warehouse in East Austin, all exposed brick and industrial lighting. I showed up Monday morning at 5:45, 15 minutes early. 27 other people were already there. We started with introductions, and I realized immediately that I was out of my depth. Software engineers looking to launch startups. MBA graduates with technical backgrounds. People who'd already built and sold companies and were back for round 2. Then there was me, a marketing guy who'd spent 7 years at the same firm. The program director, a guy named Marcus who'd founded 3 successful startups, looked around the room. Most of you will quit in the first 2 weeks, he said. Not because the material is too hard, but because you'll realize that what you thought you wanted requires more sacrifice than you're willing to make. He wasn't wrong. By day 3, 2 people had dropped out. By the end of week 1, we were down to 26. The schedule was exactly as brutal as advertised. Wake up at 5, at the warehouse by 6. Coding instruction until noon, with a 15-minute break every 90 minutes. Lunch was 30 minutes, eaten at our desks. Afternoons were business development, market analysis, customer discovery, pitch practice. Evenings were networking, speakers, mentors, portfolio reviews. I usually got back to my tiny sublet around 11, studied until 1, and tried to get 4 hours of sleep before starting over. My brain hurt constantly for the first month. Learning to code felt like trying to learn a new language while also learning how to think in that language. Every assignment revealed a dozen gaps in my knowledge. Every project highlighted how far behind I was compared to people with computer science degrees. But something strange started happening around week 5. The concepts started clicking. Not all of them, not easily, but enough that I could build small things that actually worked. A web scraper that pulled data from competitor websites. A simple app that helped users track their reading habits. A dashboard that visualized marketing metrics in real time. I wasn't the best coder in the program, not even close. But I understood marketing better than anyone else there. And I could see applications for technology that the pure engineers missed. "You're thinking about problems differently than the rest of us," said one of my cohort members, a woman named Priya who'd worked at Google for 6 years. We were in the warehouse at midnight, debugging code side by side. "Different how?" I asked. "Engineers solve technical problems. You're solving business problems with technical tools. That's rarer than you think." "Is that good?" "That's valuable," she said. "Most startups fail because they build cool tech nobody wants. You're thinking about what people actually need." I'd never thought about my marketing background as an advantage before. It had always felt like the safe choice, the generic degree, the backup plan. But here, it gave me a perspective others lacked. By week 8, I'd built a prototype for an analytics platform specifically designed for small business marketing teams. It integrated data from multiple sources, simplified the insights, and automated reporting. Everything I'd wished I'd had during my 7 years at the firm. Marcus pulled me aside after my pitch practice. "This actually solves a real problem," he said. "Thanks." "No, I mean it. 80% of projects here are solutions looking for problems. You found a problem you understand intimately and built something to fix it. Is it good enough?" "Good enough for what?" "To be real. To be a company." He studied me for a moment. "Do you want it to be?" I hadn't let myself think that far ahead. "I don't know. Maybe." "You need to know," he said. "Because if you want this to be real, you need to go all in. Not just 12 weeks. Years. Are you ready for that?" I thought about my old job, my old apartment, my old life. Safe. Predictable. Adequate. "Yes," I said. The program ended in early December. We had a showcase where we pitched our projects to a room full of investors, potential customers, and tech industry professionals. I practiced my pitch 40 times, timing it down to the second. When my turn came, I walked on stage in front of 200 people and felt surprisingly calm. I spent 7 years in marketing, I started. And every single month, I wasted 12 hours pulling reports from 6 different platforms, trying to figure out what was actually working. This platform solves that problem in 12 minutes. I demonstrated the product, walked through the market size, explained the business model. When I finished, 3 people wanted to schedule follow-up meetings. One of them was a venture capital partner who'd funded 18 successful startups. But the real validation came from someone I didn't expect. After the showcase, as I was packing up my laptop, Priya came over with someone following her. "This is Vincent," she said. "He's the CTO of a Series B startup in San Francisco. I was telling him about your platform." Vincent shook my hand and handed me a business card. "We're building a marketing ops team," he said. "We need someone who understands both the technical side and the business side." "Interested in what exactly?" "Head of marketing technology. You'd build and lead the team that creates our internal tools and integrations. Base is 160 plus equity." I stared at the business card. 3 months ago, I was excited about a position that paid $85,000. "Can I think about it?" "Take a week," he said. "But we're moving fast." I flew home for Christmas. My parents picked me up from the airport, and I could see the questions written all over their faces. We made it to the car before my dad finally asked, "So, was it worth it?" I told them about the program, the projects, the job offer. My mom cried a little. "I'm sorry I doubted you," she said. "You were being reasonable. I was taking a huge risk. But it worked out." This time I said, "It might not have." Christmas Eve, I ran into her at the grocery store. My ex-girlfriend, looking exactly the same as the day she'd walked out. She saw me first, and I watched her face cycle through surprise, discomfort, something else I couldn't identify. "Hey," she said. "Hey." We stood there in the produce section, surrounded by last-minute shoppers grabbing ingredients for Christmas dinner. "How are you?" she asked. "Good. Really good, actually." "You?" "Fine. Working a lot. Same stuff. How's your brother? Still at the firm?" "Yeah, still there." The conversation felt like we were reading lines from a script neither of us had memorized. "I heard you went to Austin," she said finally. "For some program." "I did. Just finished, actually." "And was it everything you hoped?" There was something in her tone, a note of skepticism or maybe hope that I'd failed. "It was better," I said. "I learned to code, built a product, got offered a position leading a marketing tech team at a startup in San Francisco." Her expression froze. "What?" "Head of marketing technology. Base 160 plus equity. I'm flying out next week to finalize everything." "You're moving to San Francisco." "Looks like it." She adjusted her grip on her shopping basket. Wow. That's great. Congratulations." "Thanks." A long pause. "I guess I was wrong about you," she said quietly. "You weren't wrong. You were right. I was playing it safe. I was coasting. But then you changed." "I tried to change. It worked out." She looked down at her basket, full of ingredients for a meal I'd never eat with her. "My friend Danielle's boyfriend," she said. "His third startup? It failed. He's working retail now, trying to figure out his next move." I didn't know what to say to that. "I'm sorry to hear that." "He took risks, though. He went after what he wanted." "He did." She looked back up at me, and I saw something sad in her eyes. "Can I ask you something honestly?" "Sure." "If I hadn't said what I said that night, would you have changed anything?" I thought about it. Probably not. At least not for a long time. "So I helped you." "In a way, yeah. But you still left. You told me to take risks." "I did." "You left because I took them." "I left because I was scared," she said. "Scared that you'd fail and resent me for pushing you. Scared that you'd succeed and realize you didn't need me anymore." And now I'm working the same job, living in the same apartment, dating someone who makes $90,000 a year and talks about his 401k contributions. She laughed, but it sounded hollow. "He's safe. He's reliable. He's exactly what I said I didn't want." I didn't know what she wanted me to say. "I should go," I said. "My parents are waiting." "Yeah, of course." I started to walk away, then stopped. "For what it's worth," I said, "you were right about one thing. I was settling, and I'm grateful you called me out on it, even if the delivery was rough. But you wanted me to be ambitious for you, not for me. You wanted the status of dating someone successful, not the reality of supporting someone through the messy middle part." Her face flushed. "That's not fair." "Maybe not, but it's true." I walked away before she could respond. Christmas dinner was exactly what I needed. My parents, my younger sister, her husband, their 2 kids running around creating chaos. Normal, stable, safe. But now safe felt like a foundation to build from, not a ceiling to hide under. My sister cornered me after dinner while I was helping with dishes. "Mom said you got a job offer in San Francisco." "I did. Are you taking it?" "I think so." She dried a plate thoughtfully. "Can I tell you something?" "Sure." "When you quit your job and left for Austin, I thought you were losing it. I thought your breakup had broken something in your brain. Thanks for the vote of confidence. But watching you now, seeing how you're talking about everything, you seem, I don't know, more like yourself than you've been in years." "How do you mean?" "You've always been careful. Always thinking 5 steps ahead, weighing every option. It made you successful, but also kind of stuck." "Stuck how?" "Stuck in analysis paralysis. Stuck waiting for perfect instead of going for good enough. Stuck talking yourself out of anything risky." I dried my hands and leaned against the counter. "I didn't realize everyone saw me that way." "We didn't. Not in a bad way. You were responsible, dependable. But those are adjectives parents use for their kids, not words that describe someone chasing their dreams. And now you seem alive. Scared maybe, but alive. Like you finally figured out that safety and growth are different things." "They are different. Most people never learn that," she said. "Most people spend their whole lives choosing safety. I flew to San Francisco on New Year's Day. The startup office was in Soma, the tech district south of Market Street, in a building with exposed ductwork and standing desks for everyone. Vincent gave me a tour, introduced me to the team, walked me through the vision. We're building marketing automation for mid-sized companies, he said. The kind of businesses that can't afford Salesforce enterprise pricing but need more than basic tools. That's exactly the market I was targeting with my accelerator project. I know. That's why we want you. The team was 12 people, about to scale to 25. Young, energetic, working 80-hour weeks because they believed in the mission, not because anyone forced them. When can you start? Vincent asked. How soon do you need me? Yesterday. But realistically, 2 weeks? I thought about my sublet back in my hometown, the storage unit full of furniture I didn't need, the life I'd paused but not yet dismantled. I can do 2 weeks. We shook hands, and I officially became head of marketing technology at a startup I'd learned about 3 weeks ago. The first month was drinking from a fire hose. I hired 3 people, built a tech stack from scratch, and integrated 7 different platforms into one cohesive system. I worked 14-hour days, took meetings with vendor partners, and coded solutions when off-the-shelf tools didn't exist. It was exhausting. It was exhilarating. It was everything I'd been missing for 7 years without realizing it. By March, we doubled our customer base. By May, we closed a Series C funding round. By July, my team had grown to 8 people, and we were building tools that companies were asking to buy separately. We might have a spin-off opportunity here, Vincent said during a leadership meeting. The marketing tech stack you've built is valuable enough to be its own product. You want to launch a separate company? I want you to consider it. You'd still be part of this company, but would lead the new entity. Bigger equity stake, more autonomy, your own team. I thought about where I'd been a year ago. Comfortable. Safe. Adequate. Let's do it, I said. Devin came to visit in August. We met at a coffee shop in the Mission District, and I barely recognized him at first. He'd grown a beard and looked tired but happy. San Francisco looks good on you, he said. Austin looked good on you when I left. Now you look exhausted. He laughed. Startup life. We just closed seed funding. 18-hour days for the past 3 months. Worth it. Every second. You were right to push me to go for it. I didn't push you. You pushed me. We pushed each other. We spent 2 hours catching up, talking about the ways our lives had diverged from the safe paths we'd been following. Your ex reached out to me, Devin said casually. I looked up from my coffee. When? Last month. Asked how you were doing, if you were seeing anyone, if you seemed happy. What did you tell her? I told her you were thriving, that you seemed more like yourself than you'd ever been, that you were building something real. How'd she take it? She asked if you ever mentioned her. What did you say? I said you'd moved on, that you were focused on your work and your growth, and didn't have time to look backward. Was that true? He studied me. Is it? I thought about it honestly. Yeah, it is. She was part of a version of myself I'm not anymore. I'm grateful for the wake-up call, but I don't miss who I was when I was with her. That's healthy. Is it? Or is it cold? It's honest, Devin said. She wanted you to change, but couldn't handle what that change actually looked like. That's on her, not you. We left the coffee shop and walked through the Mission, past murals and taco trucks and tech workers hurrying between meetings. You happy? Devin asked. I'm challenged. I'm growing. I'm building something that matters. Is that the same as happy? I think so. I think happiness is different when you're actually pushing yourself. It's less comfortable, but more satisfying. Like the difference between a full stomach and a good meal. Exactly like that. By October, the spin-off was official. We launched as a separate entity under the parent company's umbrella, raised a small seed round, and hired 15 people. I was CEO of a marketing technology startup with actual customers and actual revenue. 23 months after quitting my comfortable job, I was running a company. The growth was stressful but addictive. Every problem we solved revealed 3 new ones. Every milestone hit raised the bar for the next one. I worked harder than I'd ever worked in my life and felt more fulfilled than I'd felt in years. My parents came to visit in November. I gave them a tour of the office, introduced them to my team, showed them what we'd built. My dad pulled me aside after the tour. I need to apologize, he said. For what? For trying to talk you out of this. For treating your risk like it was reckless instead of brave. You were being a parent. You were trying to protect me. I was trying to keep you safe. But safe isn't always the same as good. I know that now. I'm proud of you, he said. Not because you're successful, but because you were willing to fail. That's rarer than you think. Thanksgiving came, and I flew home for 4 days. The family gathering was bigger this year. Aunts and uncles and cousins I hadn't seen in years. Everyone wanted to hear about San Francisco, about the startup, about the journey. I tried to downplay it, but my sister wouldn't let me. He went from marketing manager to CEO in less than 2 years, she announced to the table. Not quite CEO, I said. It's a small company, and we're still part of a larger. You're being modest, my sister interrupted. Tell them about the funding round. I reluctantly shared the details, and the questions came flooding in. How did I learn to code? What made me take the risk? Was I scared? Did I have a backup plan? I answered as honestly as I could, trying to emphasize the luck involved, the timing, the privilege of being able to take the risk in the first place. But what struck me most was how the conversation shifted. A year ago, these same relatives had looked at me with polite concern when I'd announced I was quitting my job. Now they looked at me like I'd unlocked some secret they wanted to understand. My cousin, who worked a government job he hated, pulled me aside after dinner. How do you know when it's time to make a change? He asked. You don't, I said. That's the thing. You never really know. You just have to decide that staying where you are costs more than the risk of leaving. That's terrifying. It is. But so is spending 20 years somewhere you hate, and then realizing you're too invested to leave. He nodded slowly, processing. Did your girlfriend really break up with you because you weren't ambitious enough? It's more complicated than that. But yeah, basically. That's harsh. It was the best thing that could have happened to me. She held up a mirror I'd been avoiding, and I didn't like what I saw. So I changed. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you'd stayed together? If you'd taken the promotion instead of quitting? Sometimes. But I think I know the answer. I'd be comfortable, stable, and quietly miserable. I'd still be waiting for the right time to take a real shot. And now I'm uncomfortable, unstable, and genuinely excited about what I'm building. That's a better trade. On my last night home, I drove past my old apartment. Someone else lived there now, their lights on, their life playing out in the same space where mine had fallen apart. I didn't feel nostalgic or sad or even particularly reflective. I just felt grateful that I'd been pushed hard enough to push back. I flew back to San Francisco on Sunday evening, and Monday morning, we had a company all-hands meeting. I shared the quarterly results, the growth metrics, the roadmap for the next year. But I also shared something else. 2 years ago, I was working at a marketing firm, waiting for a promotion that would have given me a 40% raise and kept me on the exact same trajectory I'd been following since college. The room was quiet, everyone listening. Then someone I trusted told me I was playing it too safe, that I was coasting, that I'd forgotten how to dream bigger. I paused, looking around at the team we'd built. She was right, and it hurt to hear. But that moment of discomfort pushed me to make a change that led to everything we're building now. I let that sink in for a moment. I'm telling you this because I want you to know that this company exists because someone was willing to tell me a hard truth. And I want to create a culture where we're willing to tell each other hard truths. Not to tear each other down, but to push each other to be better than we think we can be. One of my engineers raised his hand. What happened with the person who told you that? We broke up, I said simply. Because she wanted me to be ambitious on her terms, not mine. She wanted the status of dating someone successful, not the reality of supporting someone through the messy parts of growth. Do you regret it? Not even a little. She gave me the push I needed, but she wasn't willing to come along for the journey. That's okay. Not everyone is meant to be part of every chapter. The meeting ended, and people filtered back to their desks. But several people stopped by my office throughout the day to share their own stories. The designer who'd been told she wasn't creative enough and used it as fuel to build a portfolio that got her hired here. The engineer who'd failed out of his first startup and used the lessons to become invaluable to ours. The marketer who'd been told to stay in her lane and instead expanded into 3 new roles. Everyone had a moment where someone had questioned them, doubted them, or pushed them to prove something. And everyone had used it as motivation. By December, we tripled our revenue and doubled our team size. We were getting acquisition interest from larger companies, and investors were reaching out about series of funding. Vincent called me into his office the week before Christmas. We need to talk about next year, he said. Okay, you've built something special here. The parent company wants to invest heavily in the spinoff. We're talking serious growth capital. That's good news. It is. But it also means bigger decisions, bigger pressure, bigger stakes. Are you ready for that? I thought about the question honestly. 2 years ago, I would have said no. I would have been terrified of that responsibility. And now I think that's exactly why I should say yes. Because it scares me. Because it'll force me to grow into someone who can handle it. Vincent smiled. That's what I was hoping you'd say. I spent Christmas in San Francisco this year. Most of the team had gone home for the holidays, but a few of us stayed behind, working on projects and plans for the new year. On Christmas Eve, I took a walk through the city, past the decorated storefronts and the tourists taking photos, and the homeless encampments that exist alongside the wealth. I thought about how much had changed in 2 years. How a single conversation had unraveled a life I'd spent 7 years building. How scary it had been to step away from safety. How many times I'd doubted whether I was making the right choice. How it all could have gone differently if even one thing had shifted. But mostly I thought about how grateful I was that someone had cared enough to tell me I was settling. Even if her delivery was cruel. Even if her motives were selfish. Even if she couldn't stick around to see what happened next. She'd given me permission to want more. And I'd taken that permission and run with it. My phone buzzed with a text from Devin. "Merry Christmas, man. Proud of you." I texted back. "Proud of us. We both made it out. We did. Here's to uncomfortable growth. And unsettled futures. And taking risks that scare us." I walked back to my apartment, a small one-bedroom in Nob Hill that cost 3 times what my old place had cost, but felt like home in a way that apartment never had. I opened my laptop and looked at the company dashboard. Revenue, users, growth metrics, hiring pipeline, all the numbers pointing up and to the right. But more than the numbers, I looked at the messages from team members, the customer feedback, the product roadmap we were building together. This was real. This mattered. This was what it felt like to stop settling and start building. I'd started this journey because someone told me I was playing it too safe. I'd finished it by proving to myself that I could be someone who took big swings. And somewhere in between, I'd stopped trying to prove anything to anyone else. The opinions that had once devastated me now barely registered. The validation I'd once craved now felt less important than the work itself. I'd upgraded my mindset, strengthened my discipline, and pursued opportunities that terrified me. And now, 2 years later, my progress spoke louder than any explanation I could offer. People asked me for advice. Relatives referenced my journey when talking about their own decisions. Former colleagues reached out asking how I'd made the transition. I'd become a reference point in conversations about risk and growth and choosing discomfort over safety. Not because I was special, but because I'd been willing to try. I closed my laptop and looked out the window at the San Francisco skyline. All those buildings full of people chasing their own versions of more. Tomorrow, the team would be back. The new year would start. The growth would continue. But tonight, I let myself sit in the quiet satisfaction of knowing I'd done something I was genuinely proud of. Not for her. Not for my family. Not for anyone else. For me. And that made all the difference.